What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by two things. Since we don't do any sponsorships here on the channel, I'll go ahead and shill those out. The first is my music, which is available anywhere you stream your music, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, doesn't matter. It's under the name Aftersound. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And the second is a new podcast I just launched called Chasing Infinity. It is myself and ChatGPT as my AI co-host. We cover a wide range of topics. It's available on my YouTube music channel, so check the description for any and all links. I appreciate the support. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into this video, which is my part 2 of the 5 biggest takeaways from Matt's first year as CEO. So once again, I want to congratulate Matt on completing a first year as CEO. You guys can check out part 1, which is where I covered things from more like a philosophical perspective, or just a different, like the way that Matt was like handling things and his perspective and the changes that he had brought to the game. Not the tangible changes, but like the change of perspective, in my opinion, that he had brought to the game. Now I want to actually talk about a lot of things that have been added or removed from the game, or whatever it is, that made a tangible impact on the game economy in the long run, right? And I know people are going to look at this and say, well, look at where asset prices are, look at blah, blah, blah. And again, you're not wrong, but I do think this is very much a case of one step back to take 2 steps forward. And it reduced and removed a lot of the extraction that was happening in this ecosystem. I mean, we are down to like 6,000 accounts, daily average active accounts, which is, the fact that we were at like 500,000 even 2 years ago, right? Or 2.5 years ago was wild to me, wild. And so a lot of the extraction has left. A lot of players have left, unfortunately, right? But a lot of the extraction has left, and the game economy is actually in a phenomenal place right now. I don't think people realize that, right? We had to rip off the Band-Aid. We had to cauterize the wound, right? We had to do all of these things to stop the bleeding. And now that we're there, we can heal. And not just heal, but we can build back better, right? So let's actually dive into this. Now, this is not in any particular order, and I know that I'm going to miss a bunch of things here. So this is not exhaustive by any means, but I was just I didn't even look through like the past notes, which is what I should have done. But you know what? Actually, I changed my mind. I wanted to actually think through this. And so like I spent like a 30-minute walk just going through and like, what are the 5 things from the past year that Matt has, that has changed tangibly in the game that came to me, right? So that's why I call this the 5 biggest takeaways, and it's not a summary. So these are the 5 biggest things. Let's go ahead and dive in. The first one is going to be DEC faucets and DEC sinks. We have seen a tremendous amount of DEC faucets closed. The biggest of which, right? I shouldn't even say the biggest of which, but Soulbound reward cards is a massive one, because not only was that a faucet closed, that was a sink added, right? And I know Matt did this actually in January of 2023, but we got to see the impact of it just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, with the unbinding of Soulbound reward cards, where we burned 100 million DEC. So all of a sudden, right, previous reward cards had all been inflationary, not just to cards, but also to DEC, if people wanted to burn those cards for DEC. And now it's the exact opposite. Those cards only become sellable, transferable NFTs if people are willing to sink the 10 to 20x, DEC into them. And we've seen a significant burn, right? So that's probably one of the biggest. The other one, which I think is a little bit underrated, but it was also a form of like, infinitely inflationary DEC, was the gladiators. Now that the gladiators are no longer, that you can burn them for merits rather than DEC, that's something that I don't think a lot of people have necessarily realized, right? Now, here's there's a couple more, right? So obviously the wild pass, but we're going to talk about that in more detail later. And then the leaderboards. Now the leaderboards are the last area in which we have DEC inflation coming in every month. It's been reduced significantly because of the rewards update, which we'll also talk about. But with there being only one leaderboard rather than a bunch of different leaderboards, it's reduced significantly in that way. It's also reduced the amount of gaming that happens. I shouldn't say, like gamification, right? That happens at the lower levels where people don't try to rank up as quickly as possible. That did make a lot of players leave as well, and that's unfortunate. But all of these essentially removed a lot of the extraction, and removed a lot of the what's that called? The DEC faucets, right? Now, the DEC sinks, on the other hand, like I said, like I mentioned, like the Wild Pass is a regular thing. We have the Soulbound reward cards. While this is not team related, but it happened during this past year. I think tournament fees are actually significant DEC sync now, and we're seeing that come in and be a bigger part of the ecosystem and actually helping the ecosystem, burning, I think it was 2 million DEC over the first month. Like, again, this stuff is not insignificant, and it will start to add up over time. So all of these changes, all these updates, which are minor, right? But it's kind of like it's greater than the sum of its parts. All these things kind of went by maybe even unnoticed. Yet what they've done altogether is created a much more robust ecosystem where less extraction can happen, less exploitation can happen, and people can come in and really, at the end of the day, if you want DEC, if we're out of DEC, if you want it, you got to burn SPS, right? Like that's literally going to be one of the only and best ways in the future once we've gotten through the finite amount of DEC that's currently in excess supply, as well as the reward cards that are in excess supply. But again, both of those are finite, and we will work our way through them. Okay, number 2, the rewards update was actually quite significant. So, there was a ranked update and a rewards update that kind of went hand in hand. Now, the ranked update, again, people will feel one way or another about it. Matt has a certain amount of conviction when it comes to creating the game in this way or reformatting the game in this way. It is what it is. You have to get on board or you don't. And a lot of people didn't get on board, and that's unfortunate. Whether we stay in this model or we move back to something with leagues in the future, I don't know. But I've said that I want to see how this plays out through the bull run, right? If we have a bull run in at some point, or it feels like we're there now, but at some point over the next 12 to 15 months, let's see how people come in and react to this, because they didn't know what it was like beforehand. So let's see how it goes. But the rewards update is actually quite significant in my opinion, because with the introduction of glint, we now have a kind of like a soul-bound in-game currency that can only be spent on upgrading your account, upgrading your cards, right? Buying things in the shop that is, significant, but it's not sellable, right? It's not exploitable. It's not extractable. It's just like, hey, if you want glint, right? Like you got to play, you got to earn, and then you got to, you can spend that glint in this reward shop on whatever you want. Rather than it being a bunch of random chests, you get to buy a bunch of different things. And I don't think the team has actually even fully utilized that. And I hope that over the next year, they add a lot more, right? Sure, there's some titles and you can go in and, upgrade your reward cards and get reward cards. But it'd be cool if they add a bunch of other things, especially, and here's where it gets interesting, especially with glamour being a big part. And for people that might be new, glamour are the skins and cosmetics that the team is currently working on and hoping to have out by the end of the year. So with that, being the case, if it's like getting more glamour or using glamour to increase the amount of glint that you have or that you can earn, that to me represents a way in which people will just get stuck in the gamification of things, which is a good thing, right? It's just like, ooh, I want all the cool shiny things, right? And it's not about SPS. It's not about selling SPS. It's like, I want all the cool things in game that you can only pay for with glint, which you can only earn by playing the game, right? So people will go through and start using or utilizing different things, especially with glamour or any other mechanisms that they come up with, just to get glint, just to be able to get some of this top tier stuff. So that is my hope. I mean, again, I think the glint shop, as good as it is now, right? And it's completely different than when it first launched. It is underutilized, but this is something that I think the team has long-term plans for. It's less than a year old, right? It's probably only like 6 months old at this point, less than 6 months old. And so my hope is that they're able to add a lot of value to that and through that to the ecosystem over time. All right, number 3, the Wild Pass. What I love about this is not necessarily that we're burning a ton of DEC. That's fantastic, right? But they could have found other gates for this as well. What it does is that it removes long-term extraction. So you don't have accounts that could just come in and maybe you buy a couple of cards here and there, or you rent a couple of cards here and there for the short term, and then all of a sudden they earn a bunch of Soulbound reward cards, which earn SPS themselves, and have those accounts essentially run forever without providing any other value back to the ecosystem. That was the nail in the coffin, right? The Wild Pass coming over the summer was the nail in the coffin to finally remove massive bot farms. And to me, like, if you don't recognize how important that was, and if you don't recognize it and you're not understanding the benefits, look at the price of SPS. Look at the price of SPS since that time. Because what we've seen is sure there was a not a fallout, but like a all-time low at about 0.0041. And since that time, sure, you could say it's the bull run, but I would say even before that, right? Since that time, we've seen whales come in and push the price up, and nothing is pushing the price down anymore. Why? Well, it's because people aren't selling their SPS, or accounts that are extracting value are not selling their SPS. In order to do so, in order to earn SPS, right, in the wild format, you need to go and pay 2,000 DEC. And for a lot of these bot farms, if it's not ROI positive, they're not going to do it. Right? And what I mean by that is if it's not ROI positive, because they're not investing a lot, they don't have high level cards, they don't have a ton of SPS, they were just doing it for the long tail, right? Like if you have 100,000 accounts that are each earning 1 SPS per season, right? Like that may not seem like a lot, like 1 SPS per season, they're just earning fractions, but 100,000 accounts doing that, all of a sudden you're getting 100,000 SPS per season, right? That's what scaling up does when you don't have any kind of barrier. So I know many people did not like it, and people even now are looking for ways to bypass it if you're a large holder in the game, like you're holding a certain amount of SPS or CP or whatever, and that's fine. We can explore those options, but I also like the other side of this, which is, hey, not only does it create a gate for long-term extraction, but it creates a burn mechanism that is now burning, I think, like 5 million DEC every season, right? So maybe up to 10 million DEC per month. And that's with SPS relatively low. As that starts to go up, I would expect more accounts to come online because, the ROI would be good on that. So if that ends up happening, well, all of a sudden now we're burning way more SPS. Way more DEC that could potentially lead to burning more SPS. But that was a major one. And it was very outside the box because I had not even thought of that. The team had never even discussed it, but all of a sudden, as soon as he said it, it clicked. It made sense to me. And, I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've seen over the past year. Number 4, this is probably more so an emotional pick for me, just because I've been in the game for 3 years now, and we were as soon as vouchers came around, everybody's like, oh, we're gonna get this voucher shop and it's gonna be awesome and there's gonna be things to spend on, and we never got it until literally earlier this month. We got the voucher shop, but more importantly, and I want to give a shout out again to Crypto Eater and Bjangles for really pushing the envelope on this, and for Matt for being open-minded to work with whatever the community had decided. We now have a situation in which voucher utility is streamlined. It is no longer being a drag on the game economy. It's no longer being a drag on DEC, which ends up being a drag on SPS. And you can either go and choose to buy the promo card with it, or you choose not to, right? You can go and sell it on the marketplace. But even better is that the LP rewards that were inflating SPS, right, because they were giving out SPS, those are now shut off. The LP has been brought in-game. It's DEC and vouchers, and it burns 5% of every transaction. So now all of a sudden we went from, inflationary to deflationary in a sense with at least the LP, right? Looking at it from that perspective. So I'm just a fan of the voucher shop. I'm a fan of the fact that, it was a kind of combination between the company and the community. And we were able to find a solution that I think most people are happy with. And I know there was a little bit of a hiccup when things first launched with the LP, but I do believe that is going to resolve itself over time. We'll see how things go once the next the next promo card, right, is placed in the voucher shop. And I think the team has even hinted at maybe throwing in, glamour or certain things, right? And it would make sense, right? Right now, Mana Warden is the only card available that you can buy. But if you want to get the glamour for it, well, maybe you got to spend vouchers there in the voucher shop as well, rather than getting the glamour for Mana Warden in the glint shop or somewhere else, right? It would make sense that you streamline everything. It's just like all this stuff is available in the voucher shop and you go there for it. And at some point, genuinely, I do think this, right? At some point, there won't be enough vouchers for the people that want the stuff that's in there. It sucks right now, right? Because we're still recovering from that little bit of exploit and the mistake that was made. But it didn't inflate vouchers too much. I think we talked about 2 million vouchers, and I was like, that's a month and a half worth of printing, right? If you get either new players coming in or a fantastic card that a lot of people need to have, I think that increases the value of vouchers. And this is not financial advice. I'm not saying vouchers are going to shoot up to whatever, dollar value. I'm just saying that we only print 40,000 a day, which used to be crazy because I was like, oh my God, we're printing 40,000 a day. But when you get to a point where you can only spend it in one place, it's not, dragging down the rest of the economy, then all of a sudden that 40,000 is finite, right? It's 14.6 million vouchers printed per year. And if the next couple of promo cards, or maybe glint, not glint, but like glamour or whatever, are things that people actually want, and either the player base starts increasing, or you just have things that people really want, and that, the what's that called? The voucher shop starts to have multiple items, right? Maybe multiple different cards or whatever the case is, or glamour or different benefits. All of a sudden, people are going to be buying. And that to me will all of a sudden feel like, ooh, how do I get more vouchers, right? Rather than them just dumping them on the market. So that's number 4. Number 5, and we'll close out with this, is this new revenue model that Matt has put into place. Now, I probably could have put this on the other side too, in like video 1, but I think that it's important here because we've now seen it kind of tested in multiple formats, right? We saw it with the Rebellion sale. We saw it attempted with the promo card sale for the Bitcoin halving, but community voted against that. But then the community did vote to have all of these promo cards as part of like this Hall of Legends promotion that they're doing now. And the reason that this is important is because it shows a certain type of synergy, right? Between, and symbiosis really, between the team, the DAO, and the community. Like, we all are working together towards this common goal of making this game as successful as possible, making the asset prices in this game, go up to the moon. So I would say that this has been a good like proof of concept, and I'm not smart enough to know the areas in which it's been negative or could have been done better. My hope is that there's smarter people than me, both in the community and on the team, that are looking at like, how can we make better versions of this in the future? But I'll say this right now. We've seen it be successful in providing the team with funding. We've seen it be successful in utilizing the DAO's resources to help the team get money almost like upfront to create things of value that people want, right? And not everybody, right? As you can see with the what's that called? The promo cards now, but a significant amount. I mean, we're over 100 million DEC that's been locked back up in the DAO for this, right? So the team got something out of it. The DAO is recouping its costs, and we as players get to have a new card added into the game. Now, some people might look at that and say, well, that sucks. Like, if I don't want the card, then I don't want it to come in. But then, like, that's literally every trading card game. Every TCG out there offers new cards, right? So card inflation is always going to happen. My point is that it's different now because it's not the company trying to sell you a bunch of stuff and make that money and take it to the bank. It's, hey, let's do this in a way where the company gets X amount. The DAO ideally gets X plus, right, back into its coffers. And the community gets a new card that shakes up the meta, that ends up being something fun and exciting. And again, proof of concept is there. 100 million people, sorry, not 100 million people, 100 million DEC has been used to buy these cards. So whether you like it or not, there is demand there, right? And this is why I was, saying like, I think if we hit over 100 million, it's going to be very difficult to talk about pricing, but that's a whole separate thing. The focus here is on this new revenue model, and I am actually very curious to see how things move forward in the future, whether we get a mini set, whether we get a new core set, what that's going to look like, and how much value that can provide to the team to keep the lights on, to keep this game running for all of us that know it and love it, and continue providing value through hopefully new features in the future, hopefully new cards, hopefully new game modes, right? All that stuff coming, down the line, ideally. But that is where I will wrap things up. Those are the 5 biggest takeaways. Now, like I said earlier, I'm sure I missed things. I'm sure I didn't, consider everything. And so what I would like is if you think that there was something bigger, something that should have been included on this list, or even number 6 or bonus, let me know in your comments below. Again, like I said, there's probably something that I'm forgetting, so forgive me on that end. But that is all I have for you guys in this video. I will catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.